Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all the way. If you keep on the sunny side of life.
Hi, this is Joe Martin, pastor at First Baptist in Toledo, Washington, and this is a midweek cabin talk, and I thank you so much for taking a few minutes to watch this. A lot going on, a lot of different things happening. This Sunday, of course, we'll be talking about the heart that gets heard, and really the idea of living in the kingdom, the heart of a person that's living under the kingdom of God, and how that affects your relationship with God, and the heart that doesn't get heard, that sometimes we're being religious and we're really just going through the motions and not much is happening. Thank you so much for many of you that made commitments to faithfulness, to measurable and accountable areas of faithfulness. And you remember that faithfulness it never becomes a virtue until it is under pressure to not follow through, until it's hard. So remember, you're going to come up against that many, many times. So thank you so much for many of you that are going through ESD, discipleship, and you're many people working through that. And thank you. I know there's a lot of good work happening there. Just be praying as we go forward, and I'll talk a little more about that. You know, Pastor Mike will be transitioning into a different role. He's going to be on sabbatical for a few months. So be praying as God meets those needs, especially in children's work. Also pray for these are big stretches for us as we look at different staff and different things we're doing. Just pray that God meets all those needs. I thank you so much for many of you who watch this and you give online and you're really faithful. And if you want to do that, just go to the website and you can set it right up. And many of you give on an ongoing basis, and so thanks so much. I want to talk to you about petition. It's a type of prayer. We see it especially in places like Daniel, where in Daniel 6, let me read this passage. Then these men said, "We will not find any ground of accusation against Daniel unless we find it against him with regard to the law of his religion, a law of his God." Daniel 6:6. Then these commissioners of satraps came by agreement to the king and spoke to him spoke to him as follows: "King Darius live forever." And all the commissioners of the kingdom, the prefects and the satraps and high officials and the governors have consulted together that the king should establish a statute and enforce an injunction that anyone who makes a petition to any god or man besides you, O king, for 30 days shall be cast into the lion's den. Now, O king, establish the injunction and sign the document so that it may not be changed according to the laws of the Medes and the Persians, which may not be revoked. Therefore, King Darius signed the document, that is the injunction. Now, when Daniel knew that the document was signed, he entered his house. Now in his roof chamber, his windows were open toward Jerusalem, and he continued kneeling on his knees 3 times a day, praying and giving thanks before God, as he had been doing previously. Then these men came by agreement and found Daniel making petition and supplication before God. And they told him about the king's injunction. "Did you not sign the injunction? Did you not sign?" They told the king, reminded the king of his injunction. "Did you not sign the injunction that any man who makes you petition of any god or man besides you, O king, for 30 days is to be cast into the lion's den?" The king replied, "The statement is true according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which may not be revoked." Then they answered and spoke before the king. "Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, or the injunction which you signed, but keeps making his petition 3 times a day." Then as soon as the king heard this statement, he was deeply distressed and set his mind on delivering Daniel. And even until sunset, he kept exerting himself to rescue him. And of course, the rest of the story. Daniel gets thrown in the lion's den. The angel of the Lord is sent to close the mouth of the lions, and Daniel survives. And of course, many dimensions of that story. But I want you to see that something about Daniel's life, that 3 times a day he petitioned, and petition is a particular type of reference to prayer. We see it in Luke 1:13, where the angel said to him, speaking to Zacharias, "Do not be afraid, Zacharias, for your petition has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth shall bear you a son, and you shall give him the name John." This was the prophecy of John the Baptist. We see later Paul writing to the Ephesians in Ephesians 6:18, where he says, "With all prayer and petition, pray at all times in the Spirit with this in view. Be on the alert with all perseverance and petition for all the saints." This is the idea of a petition. And what does that mean? Well, you've gone to Walmart or Safeway, and there's people outside with a petition drive. There's gathering signatures. And so if you go up, you say to them, "Hey, what's it about?" They're not going to say, "Well, I don't know, it's about this or that, whatever you want." Just kind of fill in the blanks. A petition is very specific. And when it comes to prayer, it is you making a very specific request to God about something. Something measurable, something definite. This is very important. And this is oftentimes really important in your own secret time of prayer, or your closet time of prayer, where you spend time, or we commonly call it a quiet time every day. And I pray that you will take time for silence, but you will also take time for petition. Matthew 6:6 says, "But when you pray, go into your inner room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees what is in secret will reward you." This is the idea that you're praying something that is specific. God, would you do this in somebody's life? Or God, would you provide this? And it's kind of measurable. And of course, we understand that we don't just tell God what to do. It's always completely appropriate. Jesus was very specific. He said, "Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me." That was a specific petition. But he also added, "Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." You have to have the open hand. Many times in my life, I'm praying about things, and Jesus is teaching there are some things that are so personal between you and God that you pray about them. You just don't say anything. Then you take time and watch how God will answer that prayer. You didn't drop any hints or anything. It's a secret between you and God. It is true that there is somewhat of a mystery